Welcome to the Sales Master Series training from SalesDivvy. In this video, we'll talk about setting up a successful sales network made up by sales professionals who sell to the same buyer as you. We'll discuss several topics on sales networking, including timing and makeup of a sales lead, the right people to add to your sales network, how to find networking partners, tips for successful networking. Let's get started. Frequently, people use the term sales cycle when talking about the process of selling. It's more valuable to look at the process from what the buyer is experiencing, especially when talking about lead timing and deal qualification. No matter how good of a salesperson you are, nothing is going to happen unless a buying cycle starts. And it starts with someone noticing that a problem or opportunity exists. It may be anyone in an organization that first notices it, but unless there is a problem or an opportunity, there is not going to be a purchase. As salespeople, we can sometimes bring an opportunity to the attention of a buyer, but if we do, it's very early in the process, and our odds of winning are relatively low. Think about how people and organizations solve problems. When a problem or opportunity is identified, the first step in fixing it is to identify the different ways the problem can be resolved or the opportunity addressed. For instance, if I was a manufacturer and I had a problem with materials not showing up on time, there are several alternatives to fixing it. I might want to hire a new supplier. I might try to resolve the problem with my current supplier. I might change my manufacturing process to allow for longer lead times. I might consider stopping manufacture of the product entirely. I might even find that the cost of fixing the problem or pursuing the opportunity is just not worth it. Once the buyer has decided that a particular approach would be best, for instance, if it was decided that the company should get a new supplier, the next step is to identify the best resource to replace the supplier. The focus is on evaluating competing products and services. In your industry, this may result in the buyer going out to bid or searching the internet to find pricing or calling around to suppliers or getting in touch with a sales rep who calls every few months. Now that the buyer has evaluated alternatives and competitors, it's time to make a decision. As salespeople, we declare the sale is closed. Congratulations. In the next stage, whatever it is the buyer has purchased is delivered, or services begin. Hopefully, your product or service solved the problem for your new customer. If not, the buyer may start the cycle all over again. Let's talk about prospecting as pertains to the buying cycle. If you establish a new contact that has not started the buying cycle, the contact is obviously less valuable than if there was an active buying cycle. But where is the optimum point for you to get involved? The answer depends on the nature of what you're selling. For some products or services, you need to create a need by pointing out opportunities to prospective buyers. If you're an evangelist seller for a new type of product or service, it's a typical part of your day, pointing out why companies should consider buying anything at all. They may not realize the opportunity. You have to get involved at the problem or opportunity recognition stage of the buying cycle because you're not likely to get a lot of RFPs in the mail for your product. If you're what's called a solution seller, you may want to be involved early in the identify alternatives phase. That's because for you, it's important to be involved as the buyer tries to understand how to solve the problem. But you are probably less interested in a buyer who's not really recognized a problem or opportunity. For you, that buying cycle may be just too long and the odds too low for a major sales campaign. And if you get involved only during the find sources phase, it's much more difficult for you to position yourself as a solution if others have been helping the client all along. If you're a commodities seller, you want to be involved when the buyer is actually finding sources. Being involved earlier in the process is okay, but you likely can't afford to spend a lot of time with someone who may or may not ever need your products or services. Perhaps your strategy is to have a casual relationship with the buyer. Let your competitors do the hand-holding early, and then you show up and convince the buyer that you're the right supplier. If you have a name on a list, or from the phone book, or from research on the web of someone who appears to fit the profile of someone who could buy from you, we refer to them as a suspect, meaning we suspect they could buy from us, but we don't really have enough insight to say they are more likely to buy from us than the next name on the list. A prospect is someone who you've been able to qualify at least a little And based on what we know, we can decide to invest more or less time in pursuing them as a client. Of course, having a prospect is more valuable than having a suspect. This is the point of your sales network, getting more contacts with prospects versus suspects. When you build a successful sales network, you will spend more and more of your time on prospects and less on suspects. You will have the assistance of your network allies in identifying more buyers that are capable of buying from you, more prospects. The better trained your sales associates are in identifying prospects for you, the more valuable your network. By the same token, the better trained you are in identifying good prospects for your partners, the more valuable you are to your allies. The key to building your network is to find and connect with people who are selling to the same buyers as you. The first thing you need to be able to do is describe your buyer in terms that are easy to understand and communicate with your allies. You want to make sure your allies and associates are very clear on what makes a valuable lead for you. A group gathered around a common buyer profile can help each other equally. In other words, if your network is composed entirely of people targeting your exact buyers in your exact territory, in your exact vertical market assignment, you're going to have a very powerful network. In practice, this level of precision doesn't often happen, but it doesn't have to be perfect. When building your network, try to have as much in common with your allies as possible, but evaluate potential partners by making sure the most important points are in common. If your territory is the state of Kentucky, it won't help you much to have a partner who can only prospect in Texas. But if you're focused on the auto industry, you can successfully partner with someone who's targeting all types of heavy manufacturing. So, when choosing your sales network allies, consider some of these criteria. As we've discussed, they should be selling to the same or similar buyer as you. You, of course, want your allies to be competent salespeople. In any successful network, there needs to be an element of trust between allies. You may not have this at first, but you should try to develop trust with your allies quickly. And if trust doesn't develop, consider changing allies. Your allies should be capable of giving you leads. This means that they need to be active prospectors looking to sell to similar buyers. It won't make sense for you typically to have an ally that only sells to one company. Your best allies will be people who spend an amount of time prospecting similar to the amount of time you spend prospecting. Otherwise, they won't be capable of reciprocating leads to you. This may seem obvious, but make sure your sales network allies are not competitors. Check out their company and confirm their identities before you start trading leads with them. It's possible that they work for a division of a company and another division of the company competes with you. Is that okay? You'll need to decide. Lastly, it usually makes best sense, especially when first starting your network, to avoid having allies that compete with each other. Ask yourself how you'd feel if you traded for a lead only to find out that the lead has also been given to your biggest competitor. That may be okay with you, but before you include competitors in your network, you should probably make clear that you're doing it. Remember the trustworthy point. Start building your sales network by identifying the types of salespeople who can help you. The best and easiest way to do this is to ask 2 to 3 of your customers who else they buy from. Hopefully, they'll be happy to tell you about their other vendors and perhaps give you the names of some that they like. This will be a great start. Call or email the contacts your customer gives you and simply ask if they want to do some lead sharing. Invite them to join SalesDivvy and connect, and you're on your way. Asking your clients is a good way to identify sales allies, but it's not the only way. SalesDivvy has a built-in function to find people with similar buyer profiles. Make sure your buyer profile is up to date and accurate. Then go to the Associates tab and click on the Make Connections button. Look in your local newspapers or online sources to find business events in your area. You're very likely to find lead sharing groups meeting at local restaurants. Go check it out. If your buyers routinely attend trade shows or other professional events, it's very likely that salespeople will be in attendance if allowed. Ask your customers what kind of events they attend and go do a little networking. Community-based business groups like the local Chamber of Commerce often host networking events. Use these to find valuable allies. Lastly, make a list of companies you think are selling to your same buyer. Call them up and ask to speak to a salesperson in your area. If you get someone you like, cool. If not, see if you can find someone else there that would work. Seems like prospecting? It is. Here are some tips for successful networking. Share leads when you have real insight, not just contact info. Share leads that are relevant to each individual associate. Share the lead as soon as possible. Things do change. You may not want to share an active prospect or client. Keep prospecting. The more you can divvy out to your associates, the more you can expect back. Expand your questions during calls and meetings to look for leads for your partners. If your network is out of balance, change it. Be consistent. Put time on your calendar for prospecting and network development. Set goals for how many leads you want to send to your associates. Having an effective sales network in place can save you time and, more importantly, increase your sales. See more of our sales training videos by visiting www.salesdivvy.com or check out our YouTube channel. If you don't have a SalesDivvy account yet, get a free account, fill in your buyer profile, and see who wants to share leads with you.